Hannaford. 7 o'clock, I'll call our select board meeting of Tuesday, August 10th to order. And the first item of business is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. I have one change. We're going to delete item number 9. The change order for Middlebury flood, the Middlebury River Flood Resiliency Project. We haven't received the information necessary to action that item, so pulling that out. Is there anything else that anybody has? Are there any changes? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of the amended agenda, signify with an aye.
Aye.
I think it's our mouth move, but she's muted.
Yeah. Oh, you got yours muted, yeah, okay. Next is approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moving second to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions or anything on that anybody has?
Can I just say congratulations on the Northern Border grant?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yes,
Very
yes.
exciting, $600,000.
That's
The
huge.
full grant application.
Yeah.
And that's separate from the,
750
Yeah.
for the Washington
Drinking.
Street Court Square and the 750 for the Court Street project.
because that comes out of the drinking water revolving loan fund. Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Very impressive.
Nice work.
So, quick addition, that's like 21 or 2.1 mil.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Okay. That the staff gets added girls on that. So,
Excellent.
all in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
You can do whichever you're more comfortable with. There's a nice big picture and I can see you clearly. Citizen comments. Chris, is there anybody on that has anything to say that's not on the agenda?
I see no raised hands. Brian?
Okay, thank you. Next is consideration of a new second-class liquor license application for Juice and More Incorporated on 10 Merchants Row. The board is being asked to approve a new second-class liquor license application, sale of beer and wine only for off-site consumption for Juice and More Incorporated for its location at 10 Merchants Row. The application describes business as an organic juice, smoothie bar, gift shop, specialty food, and local products grab and go. Is there any questions or anything on that?
It wasn't clear to me whether safety inspections had been done.
Yes, I believe they have been done. Tom Hanley is in the audience, so you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I believe they've been done.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
I just thought if they hadn't been done, we should just amend the motion to include pending safety
Right.
inspections.
Coming on.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I'll move to approve a new second-class liquor license application for Juice and More Incorporated for its location at 10 Merchants Row.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Very good. That's a new location, Merchants Row.
Yep.
They're going into Kiss the Cook, right? Yeah, yeah.
All right, nice.
And that was not one
Are
of
they
the
keeping their
6 businesses.
original location or?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, I go
They
there
just go-
often.
Yeah, Nan
So they're just
and
going
Olivia
Yeah.
too, and so that'll be interesting. We get a lot more foot traffic
Oh,
that
I
way.
know, I can't wait.
It'd be nice time.
Were you there for the ribbon cutting?
I wasn't.
Oh, are you going to be?
Oh, am I
Or
going? Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't even know about
You should be.
it. Yeah, I'll be there.
But this is either the 7th or the 8th business, depending on how you want to call the coffee shop, in addition to the 6th then.
Yeah, there's 6 in the coffee shop and there's 8 new businesses.
Yeah, so there's 8 new businesses coming in.
So exciting.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So, Chris, have you already let Chief in?
Tom is Tom is there. Yes.
Okay. So Chief's joining us this evening to talk about some amendments to ordinances for the regulation of vehicle weight and height limits on town highways. And I'll hand it over to you, Chief.
Okay, sorry I'm not there. I'm babysitting tonight for a bevy of grandchildren. Yeah, Bill had submitted an update to the weight limit ordinance, just getting a correct list of the streets with 24,000 pound weight limits ordinances on them. In other words, the old version of the ordinance had Adirondack View and streets that we no longer have on there. So it's really just a pro forma update for the ordinance. And that brings up a question I have. We did the same thing with the parking ordinance. Things that change really fast like this but don't substantially affect the ordinance, we usually, or we did in the parking ordinance, use as an attachment. In other words, in the parking ordinance, we no longer go through ordinance changes if we want to change parking from parallel parking to angle parking. Doesn't change the ordinance, it just requires people to park the way it's marked. And here we've got a list of streets that's subject to change. And going through the ordinance process to change a street or add a street to a weight limit goes through a fairly long, cumbersome process, up to 60 days to get this thing through. And I don't know if it's just as easier just to refer to the list of streets that Public Works posts, or to actually put it in the ordinance where it then has to go through an ordinance amendment to add or delete a street.
Is it like when you're adding a street, temporary change, I could see that. I mean, they just have to post it then, but if we're gonna add, say, a major street, that would be something that probably ought to be discussed, don't you think?
Yeah, I just throw that out just for, just to expedite a fairly simple process here, which doesn't, as I say, it doesn't substantively change the ordinance. It just updates the list of streets that are within a certain weight limit category. And, you know, to add or to delete Adirondack View, you go through a 60-day ordinance process to take a street off that isn't there anymore. I just, it seems a bit cumbersome. I mean, I'm fine either way. I just offer that as a suggestion because it worked very well with the parking ordinance. If you remember, several years ago, we kept changing parking downtown, and it would never have been able to go through the ordinance process because we changed it too fast. We just refer to the parking is enforced the way it's marked. And I just offer that as a suggestion in the future if something for the board to consider.
If we did it that way, can the board update the list without going through the ordinance? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, DPW, who manages the roads and engineers the roads, is fully aware of what the weight limits on the roads are, and they make a recommendation on what roads should be under what weight restrictions. The board at any time can do anything with the ordinance. This doesn't limit the board's authority. It just allows updates to be done as need be.
Well, it certainly sounds like it has validity, it's just a matter of what the language is.
Yeah, it would require just some change in the language, and we don't have to do that now. I mean, we're just looking at kind of a pro forma change to the ordinance with an updated list of streets. It's fairly simple, but I'm just offer that for future consideration.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
You could draft the language.
So Chief, what's the new language, or the new low limit for like Quarry Road and Munger Street? If it's no longer 24,000?
It is still 24,000.
Okay, but they're crossed off?
It's a combination of two lists. The bottom one is the original list that we're deleting and replacing with the first list. So you'll see a list of streets that are just underlined. That's essentially the same list as the ones that are crossed out, but you'll notice right at the top of the ones that are crossed out is Adirondack View. So what Bill has done was just take the existing list, cross them all out, and replace it with an updated list.
Oh,
Did he,
okay.
did he essentially re-alphabetize them? Were these some of the ones at the bottom, or?
It looks to me like he just put them in the correct order, alphabetized them.
It looks like more by the,
So the roads in, at the top that are in smaller type in 3 columns, that's the proposed list.
That's the proposed list. The crossed out list is the existing list, which we're replacing with the proposed list. And you'll notice it's almost identical. There's maybe 1 or 2 changes in it.
Okay, so I would have some concerns about Shardvilla Road and 3 Mile Bridge Road being listed because they've got all those big tanker trucks traveling that roads multiple days delivering stuff to the new biogas plant in Salisbury. So is that where the whole local delivery thing comes in?
This would be a permit. This is why they get a permit from the Public Works Department to travel on the roads with the heavier trucks.
Okay, and so they are supposed to get a permit?
Yes.
Okay, because my understanding from Dan last time, a number of years ago, was that the permit thing had gone away because it was too difficult to manage, and Middlebury is going back to requiring a permit if you're oversized, overweight on the roads.
Yeah, the issue historically on this was the reason for the weight limit ordinance is to protect the roads. So roads that didn't have the proper substrate wouldn't be coming apart with heavy traffic. But then they got into issuing a permit for anybody who wanted a permit. So it kind of defeated the purpose of a weight limit ordinance when anybody could walk in for $5 or $10 for a fleet and get a permit. And typically trucking companies all over the state would get fleet permits, whether or not they even intended on using the roads. So we were still moving the amount of heavy trucks, and most of the trucks we stopped had permits. So you had a lot of heavy traffic going on Quarry Road and some of those other streets. But they had permits to do so. There's nothing we could do about it. And then the poor guy that didn't get a permit, we'd pull him up and bring him to the transfer station and weigh his truck, and he'd get an overweight ticket. Wasn't sure what enforcement was accomplishing that. The intent of the ordinance is to protect the roads. So if you have an unlimited amount of permits for anybody that wants to get a permit, I'm not sure what we're protecting here. You got to reduce the cycles on these roads, and just an open-ended permit process didn't seem to be doing it. And that's why Dan had withdrawn the permit process until they could refigure it. Bill reintroduced it a couple of years ago, so we're back to issuing permits. But it's difficult for us to enforce because we don't know who has a permit and who doesn't have a permit. And essentially, weight limit enforcement is if it looks like a heavy truck, then it probably is a heavy truck. And if the registered lightweight is over 24,000 pounds, many of them are about 28,000. And then we get into a court issue where they actually weigh the truck and prove that it's 23,999 pounds and get their ticket dismissed. So it became a frustrating endeavor. Obviously, trucks that are really, really heavy, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 pounds on those roads, it's easy to deal with. But we don't get any because they all have permits.
Bill wanted to note that one of the benefits of having a highway permit is that we receive a certificate of insurance as an additional insured. And so we have those on file in the event of
Okay,
traceable damage.
So I'll follow up with Bill because we haven't gotten, our business hasn't gotten permits in a long time. Last time I talked to Dan, we didn't need any
I didn't know we
permits.
needed one.
Okay, so this is good to know. I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out.
We have ag trucks using these roads. Palmerville's triaxles are loaded with silage. They're moving up and down the roads from field to field. I don't even know if they have a permit or not, but they're going back and forth with agricultural business, and how much you're going to enforce there, I don't know.
Well, you should check with Bill and make sure, or Dan or whoever, and make sure those big tanker trucks that are hauling 3 Mile Bridge and Shardvilla Road down to the new biogas plant have a permit.
Yeah, and I think another reason for the permits is they could at least evaluate what the use of the road is.
Yeah.
They can at least, it's the cycles that matter, not the single heavy truck. I can do that tomorrow or Friday.
Guessing those big tankers coming in and out of there weighing 90 to 100,000, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom, for answering the questions.
You're welcome.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve the proposed amendment regulation of vehicle weight and height limits on town highways as presented.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Can't see
Oh,
Lindsay.
Sorry about that.
Lindsay, just speak up.
There you go.
I see you. Okay, so all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 And just follow our public hearing for the select board's meeting on August 24th to take community testimony on the approved ordinance amendments prior to final adoption.
Second.
Leave me hanging out there, yeah.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Jim? Thanks, chief.
The grandkids.
The duck cake.
It's great to see you all in person.
Yes.
Yes.
And Lindsay, where's Lindsay? Look at me.
Please,
Oh.
right?
Hey, Lindsay.
She can actually see you, and she can probably see herself behind you.
You could
Oh.
turn around and see her.
Oh, yeah, okay, got it. Good, good. So, 2 items tonight. One, park benches. So it was brought to our attention earlier this year that the historic ashlar blocks that have been removed from the abutment and brought into Triangle Park and Lazarus Park to serve as retaining walls and as seating may not be the most comfortable seats for our fellow citizens and visitors. So with that in mind, I did a little research and identified a vendor who manufactures and supplies kind of traditional New England park benches. These are wood, 6-foot long wood benches on a cast iron powder coated base. And they're used all over, it's a Massachusetts supplier, they're used all over the historic areas in Faneuil Hall in Boston, Plymouth, Massachusetts, and so forth. And so I brought those benches to the DIDC, who agreed to fund them to up to $10,000 worth of benches. So a good sum was involved there. And we had 6 lined up to come to Middlebury, and the COVID supply chain issue surfaced. And right now we're only able to secure 4. Those will, if the select board approves their purchase, they will be delivered next week, and will be set in place temporarily on the green green grass strip now that's in the middle of Triangle Park. I talked with Bill Kernan about just setting them there, so they'll be there for our celebration on the 21st. And then Bill will consider their kind of permanent placement and whether, if they're on the grass, they need cement footings, or whether they we like them on the sidewalk. We can discuss that once they're here in town. So the cost for those is $43.63. That includes delivery from Massachusetts to Middlebury. And again, if you approve, they will be delivered next week. And then I will come back to the board at a later date to recommend purchase of additional benches to be placed elsewhere in central downtown with the additional monies that are funded by DIDC. Okay.
I'm sorry, what did you say the amount DIDC approved?
$10,000.
Okay.
So tonight we're spending $43.63, which includes purchase of the benches, the anchor bolts, and their delivery from Massachusetts to Middlebury.
Questions of Jim?
These first four
Yes.
are gonna go on in the green areas. Okay.
Probably on the inner circle of it. We'll probably, I was thinking we would face 2 or 3 toward the intersection of Main and Merchants, and maybe 1 back towards St. Stephen's, or they, we can, once they're in place, we can kind of play around with what the configuration should be.
Yeah, makes sense. Lindsay?
Yeah, hi. I'm just wondering about the wood portion of the benches. Does the company guarantee that portion for a certain amount of time, or do they have a general idea of how long the wood lasts?
Yeah, it's a dense hardwood, Lindsay, and we've got now, I think, 40 years of experience with these benches in place in Massachusetts. They age well. They're highly resistant to insects, water. That's why the wood was chosen here, and so it does weather to a gray sheen over a long period of time. But from everything I did in my research, these are long-lasting benches.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, pleasure of the board.
Nobody's gonna speak up, I guess I will.
Oh, lost my page here.
Okay. I move to award a contract to Fab Fines New England Park Bench for the purchase of 4 Victorian-style park benches to be placed in Triangle Park at a total cost of $4,363.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, signify with a, say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Aye.
and as a follow-up, I move to endorse the proposed placement plan for the new downtown park benches.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Gotcha. Hey, you know, the good news is having spent some time in Europe, it'll only take about 1,000 years and those ashlar blocks will be nice. They'll be, all the rough edges will be worn off. People will be sitting on them.
If we get enough people to sit on, they'll wear faster, right?
Exactly.
Boy, you do this project for long term.
Well, it's
Buy
like,
cushions and put cushions on top.
yeah, so.
Bring your own cushion.
Well, I did see during, I was in town, my wife and I, for Pheasant Market, there were a lot of people trying them out. So Comforter, people are really excited to see our downtown now is in its final stretch, which brings me to our second item here, which is our dedication of Lazarus Park. And I'm seeing that as a kind of a dual purpose. One is clearly to, dedicate the park to the Lazarus family, which the select board approved about 2 years ago. And of course, the Lazarus Family Department Store sat on the site of the new park for most of the 20th century. And so it'll be both a dedication ceremony, I think also an opportunity for us to mark the end of over 4 years of construction. I date the start of construction to June of 2017, when the Merchants Row and Main Street bridges were taken down. I'm sure you all remember the temporary bridges, and that kind of set in motion the construction part of our project. And here we are a little over 4 years later, about ready to wrap it up. In terms of wrapping it up, we have a couple more very visible things to get through. One will be the milling and repaving of kind of the central downtown part of our roadways. That would be all of Merchants Row, Main Street between Seymour and Merchants Row, that stretch there. All of the Marble Works roadways from where you enter Marble Works on Middle Seymour all the way to the National Bank of Middlebury. So the entire roadways there. Water Street will get repaved as well, which has seen a lot of traffic coming in the back end of the access road. So that'll all happen over the next couple of weeks. You've probably seen the new sidewalk on Seymour Street, which stretches from the National Bank Seymour Street branch all the way up to the depot. It'd be really nice, as Brian and I were talking earlier today, to have that sidewalk in place. And then they'll be take out the access road and rebuild or restore the berm that was there to protect the rail line against flooding and so forth. So those are the last things we'll see. The project will now officially end on Tuesday, September 7th. Following that, there will be the inevitable punch list items that Kubricki and V-Trans will still manage through. So I will continue to report on those for as long as it makes sense to do so. And V-Trans will continue to occupy the Bourdon building while they still need a field office. That's a quick wrap on the project now. In terms of the dedication ceremony, so that is set to take place on Saturday, August 21st at noon. And that time was selected because that afternoon we will see a full array of musical events and special giveaways and other kind of special activities in town that have been sponsored by Town Hall Theater and by the Neighbors Together group, kind of a town-wide celebration of the end of the project and the revitalization of our downtown. So at noon, there will be about a half an hour or so ceremony over in Lazarus Park. We will have a microphone there, and for a few remarks, Brian will dedicate the park during those remarks. Secretary Flynn from the Agency of Transportation will be here as he was last September to make some remarks on behalf of V-Trans as the project comes to a close. I'm also arranging to have some guest speakers locally who will talk about the Lazarus family, who they were, what they meant to the community, what the history is here. I've been working with the state of Vermont to create a really good series of historical panels, those interpretive panels we have downtown that tell the story of the Lazarus family and of that piece of property there, as well as Triangle Park and a couple of the other areas downtown. So that's kind of what's lined up now for the 21st. At the end of that half-hour dedication ceremony, I'd like us all to walk across the street and turn on the fountain for the first time. We'll probably test it to make sure it does turn on. Out of all the things that I've been asked about, the fountain is number one on the list. And so it is back. It's not in place, but it's sitting within the kind of marble surround there after having been historically accurate painted. Doesn't quite make sense, but painted in historically accurate colors. And so that'll go up this week or next week and be turned on as well. And then Neighbors Together has asked me, and I'll ask you if you can attend as well, if you're able to hand out popcorn on Triangle Park for part of the afternoon as part of the celebration, the kind of giving back of things to the community. So if you're available, it'd be great to spend half hour or so, over in the park, talking to people and giving out popcorn. Neighbors Together will put the popcorn machine in place and so forth. So should be a fun day, hoping for good weather. And but either way, I think you all remember last September 18th and what a spectacular day that was, weather-wise for sure, but also just the celebration. We did it. We got it done. And I think there'll be the same feeling on August 21st too. Okay, that's the plan.
So did V-Trans have their overweight overdimension permit for Water Street? I want to know if they had their permit.
I would guess yes, but
You're probably not the right person to answer the question.
no. But I would say the Water Street residents would say probably not. This community and the Water Street residents in particular, the Patel residents I could mention too, a lot of other people did an incredible job of standing up under tough conditions, and particularly the people who are most affected by this. And my good feelings about this community, rose tremendously. Just watching how people dealt with the adversity that was thrown their way. Our project on top of COVID made for a tough year last year. I think the community showed its mettle and came through it with flying colors. So,
Well said.
thank you.
Any other questions, Jim? Jim, thanks. It's hard to believe we're coming to the end of that, but you have been as incremental as fun. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, but anyways, it's important to the success of the project as as any player out there within the community. And it's been, I mean, that was a lesson that V-Trans learned too, how
Yeah.
much smoother that can make a project go when you have a local liaison.
Yeah.
And that was, everybody was tuned in on those updates.
Yeah, that's
I
made it.
still read them,
Oh, yeah.
Good.
the ones that are coming through.
Every Friday, yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of comments about the, you don't need to solve my problems, Jim, just keep me informed. You know, I get that a lot, and I appreciate your words, Brian, and honestly, it's been a real privilege for me to have this position, over the last 5.5 years. It's been a real honor to serve the town, and I feel I've gotten to know Middlebury a lot better than I did 5.5 years ago in a lot of good ways. So
You're probably the most recognizable citizen in the community, so.
the problem, Dan, is going to be when you see me still wearing my hard hat and vest in November, walking around town, and you'll know I need a little help.
That's good.
No, we don't judge it. No, I think that, you know, I suppose look back, others probably could have done the job, but Jim, I don't think anybody could have done it better. You know?
Thanks, Nick.
And I think before, repeat what Brian said, I mean, you know, there's the complexities of the engineering and all the details and the construction that go into that. There's also the complexities of dealing with the community that's involved. And, you know, they're all equally important. That really clear. And I think it was a good lesson. I think, I'm sure V-Trans is going to take away the benefit of that because, as we know, we're a long way from having perfect infrastructure both in the state and in the country. So I think the lesson there is, you know, public information is equally very critical. So you did a great job. Thanks.
Thanks. I'm a little biased, but I think that this position is really an important one for communities that are going through long-term projects like one we've been through.
Which is, yes.
And V-Trans recognizes that. And they also saw the value that I brought to the table when they had to navigate through you know, our town. And so I'm hopeful this will become a model for future projects too.
Well, as an engineer who's worked on complex projects, I'd sure like to have you around a lot of times, and it's like, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to build. I just want to design and build.
Right.
And that made a big difference. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all.
So often the operators forget, and I mean, even on 1 week paving projects, and the word doesn't get out to the right people, and all of a sudden you get traffic jams because people aren't taking alternative routes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a difference to try to smooth people's lives out around a project, you know, and on that, if you look back on that 10 weeks, it was a dark cloud on the horizon for quite a while. But I think the reality of it was that it went as smoothly as it could have gone, that the community responded quickly and honestly, in a summer like we had last year, we provided a lot of entertainment for
It was
people.
a social place to be on Saturday.
It was, any night.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody's there.
it was any night, but social place. I mean, if somebody would set up a creamy stand.
Yeah, so the select board has been a tremendous support for me in my job, as is Kathleen. And so I want to thank you personally too for all of the support you've given me in this position.
I'm glad we didn't get 7 inches of rain in July last year.
Yes, that would have been trouble. That would have been trouble. So
We couldn't have asked for better weather while that 10 weeks was going on too.
Well, we would have had an opportunity to see how those drains really worked that we suffered through before the year before.
that's right. Yeah,
They had to dump a lot of rain.
yeah. It seems to be working now. So we'll see how we get to the finish line. But so that's the update there. Any other questions? No. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Lindsay.
Chris, I think we got Bill with us for this purchase order.
We do. I'm moving him in right now.
You there, Bill?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you waiting for me?
You're on tap here, the purchase order for the steering cylinder bin.
Yeah, the trackless machine that we have, it has a worn center pin, and that was purchased and serviced at HP Fairfield. And they're the preferred vendor. So looking at sole sourcing this to them, the machine is already over in New Hampshire on their floor in pieces.
I can't believe that's already a 2015 machine. I remember when we talked about it and structure.
So Bill, you're not asking us to spend a lot of time deliberating on this, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm actually having a hard time hearing everybody.
Oh,
Whispering.
You're doing well so far, Bill. You don't want, as usual, you don't want us to take a lot of time deciding. You want us to approve this before the snow flies.
Of course.
I'll move to contract to P. Fairfield under the sole source provision of the purchasing policy for the replacement of the center pin and pivot bearing on the town's trackless sidewalk machine at a total cost of $4,086.78.
Oh, I second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Just because we talk about sole source, I just like to make a comment for the listening audience. This one is an absolute, makes sense. They wouldn't know exactly until they'd torn it apart what it needed, and at that point, it's the difficult thing to bid, but we have to go through our procurement purchasing policy, and so it would qualify very clearly for a sole source purchase. So with that, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. I've had to ask opposed this evening because I hear ayes everywhere and I see a thumb.
Can I just make a comment before Bill goes?
Yes.
So I was going to save this for select board comments, but Bill, since you're here, I just want to say kudos to the DPW department for the Creek Road, the southern end of Creek Road, all of the ditching and work that you guys did down there. It looks really amazing. So while you're here, I just wanted you to hear that too.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Hey, Bill, you got extra help this year, or is it because the downtown is so busy with all the contractors that you're actually, because you guys are getting to some stuff you haven't gotten to in quite a few years.
Yeah, I mean, we try to do individual projects, and some are not as high profile as others, but every summer we try to get to something. So Creek Road did turn out very nicely. And no, I don't have extra help.
I was wondering what your solution was for hiring. Everybody else got problems.
Yeah, you know, we've actually been able to fill a couple vacancies, so we've been fortunate.
Anybody else have anything for Bill? I guess we'll let you go back. I'm expecting you don't have grandkids with you tonight. I don't know if you were on. Chief had his grandkids, so.
Yeah, I was. My one and only grandkid is down in Kansas, so I don't get to see her very often.
Okay. Well, thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Nick, check warrants.
Yeah, I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $668,104.19, consisting of $539,443.78 for accounts payable and $128,660.41 for payroll for the period of 28 July 2021 through 10 August 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, board member concerns. Lindsay, I'm going to come to you first.
Okay. I'm delightfully concerned about how short this meeting has been. And I just wanted to say, I know everybody said it, but the downtown is looking so amazing. I think it's a really exciting time to be here. And if we haven't already, I want to be sure that we get the word out to the community about those amazing grants that we have, because that's something everyone should know and be really proud of. And, you know, again, it's just, we have amazing staff who are very good at their jobs, and I hope that people appreciate that.
Just to follow up on that briefly, Dan did a really nice email to a resident explaining that, yes, we have a lot of projects going on, but we've been very fortunate with grant funding. So now's the time to do it. And I think that we should have reach out to John Flowers and do a similar article in the paper, just to help explain why we're under such intense construction at this time.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Agreed.
That was it for me.
Okay. Next.
Yeah, I'm so proud to be a part of Middlebury at this time. I didn't see the beginning of the projects, but it's an honor to see the end.
It's just the longest one on the board. I remember coming on the board and talking about these projects and go, oh yeah, they're a while off and they can't take 4 years to do. Here we are, they're a while off past and it took 4 years, and well, you look back at everything that went into it and all the preliminary that was well in advance of the 4 years. It is really pretty impressive. And it's been a model of how to do it right, quite honestly. It's something, this is well over a 100-year project. So, you know, our kids won't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
We hope.
We hope.
We expect.
We expect.
Yeah.
Just following up on that, I remember at the start of this project, how vocal it was and how difficult it was to get started, and the doubt and the threats of the lawsuits and everything. And Ricky promised what they said they could do, and they did. And said they guaranteed it 100%. And I think Jim, with having Jim here doing all that, pretty much after year one, it was quiet. And all the residents were very supportive just to get it done. So it was pretty impressive.
Well, for the record, this was the second job that Ricky said they would do well.
Well, they were,
This one out here too, and the cross street bridge.
they were adamant that they could do it in 10 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's just trust the pros.
That's it?
Yep.
So I mentioned Creek Road. If you guys haven't driven out, you know, it's worth a drive. That the Public Works really did a great job out there. The other thing I would just add quickly is the sole source for the track list. The little blurb in the agenda packet there is really helpful. So I don't know if we could just make that a policy for anything sole source, that we just have some background information to help us. So
We added that in response to the board's questions at previous meetings.
So that was very helpful. So I'll just thank you for that. And
Thank you,
otherwise,
Chris.
A rationale for sole source.
yeah, just some more information so it's clear why staff is choosing that. And I think once it's provided, we're in agreement. But like last meeting, when we didn't have that, it was harder to make a decision without that information.
Geez, this is like the second meeting in a row. I feel like I'm shortchanging you. The one thing we've got to
I
get.
made up for it last time.
You did? Good.
Yeah, for the record, we don't fit in.
Just so you know, there was no way I was calling in.
You're adamant about that. We heard it.
We had a great family
I didn't
vacation.
text you.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd have gotten it if you had. We spent some really quality family time, so it was nice. We do have something we've got to get onto the calendar fairly soon to talk about, and I don't know in what format we need to do that, but the state's starting to push for, as we get to the end of the project, if we want to have any control over what goes on with the board on building. And
right.
So we'll be getting with you on that. Other than that, I think we're tracking pretty good. Kathleen had a nice vacation and comes back energized as well, so we'll fill up our next board meeting a little bit fuller, so come maybe with a snack and I don't know, maybe a pillow.
You notice when she was on vacation, she did call. I mean, very conscientious city employee.
Everybody enjoyed my background.
Yes.
Where I
I
was.
was looking. I'm surprised to see how little it actually is.
I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning at 7:45, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Don't see any opposition to that. Okay. Have a good evening, Lindsay. Thank you for being cautious. We appreciate it.
Have a good night, everyone.